Let's go another round to see if you get out alive. I'm lying face down, but you can't keep me on the ground. It's so right when you live in a dangerous life. 'Cause I'm a fighter.
Countdown to Green. We take a look at all the thrills and spills from the Milwaukee Mile. We talk with eNASCAR team owner Jim Beaver. We take a look at how you're racing at home with the Logitech Show Us Your Rig segment. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
'Cause we're invincible.
Coca-Cola iRacing series. This is Countdown to Green. I am your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and joining me, as always, we have Blake McCandless and Alan Cavana. How are you two doing?
I'm doing great, Camille, and I'm just so excited for tonight because, Alan, when I think about this racetrack and what it has become, it's another opportunity race. We think about Daytona being a track where any driver can go to and win, and honestly, I think Atlanta's kind of up for the same discussion tonight.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's what's so exciting is that it's the first time the series has been here. We were at Atlanta last year, not in this configuration, so this is brand new. It's brand new for the drivers. It's a brand new opportunity. That's what makes this race so exciting tonight.
And it's definitely going to bring the heat for all the drivers because it warmed up quite a bit on the Milwaukee Mile. So let's take a look about everything that went down.
Pace car to dive down, leaving the field in the hands of Nick Ottinger as we say, let's go racing in the D-Box 100. We have our first caution flag of the night, and it sounds like it may have been Colin Bowden. Very, very quick caution off of that restart. There was a lot of checking up. 14 was loose off of 4, and then the 46 car was there, and yeah, just all accordion as he got punted off to 1. Caution comes out behind. It is an incident involving Jimmy Mullis. Malik Ray to the inside of Nick Ottinger, Kerwin, Conti, Maines, your top 5. They wait for the restart zone. The 7's in control. He holds and waits and gets a great jump to turn 1. Two of the very best drivers all time in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series gonna put on a battle at the Milwaukee Mile. Conti's got it, Ottinger wants it, and it's really a wash on the gains that time by. The gap is still 2 car lengths with 2 laps to go. White flag in the air one more time from Milwaukee. Michael Conti in his final season, arguably in his most competitive form ever. If he can win this, he'll get a win in 4 straight seasons for the first time in his career. Ottinger tries, but there's nothing left, and Michael Conti gonna come at a turn number 4. Career win number 14 comes at the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, as you saw, there were quite a bit of shakeups there. But Blake, this means that there's a shakeup in points as well, so take us through it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a shakeup in points, but there's also, in terms of kind of looking at these at the standings, you see Michael Conti here, Tucker Minter, obviously with their wins. But look who's sitting right there in 3rd after 2 races. Malik Ray has been so strong early on in this season. And the other thing I think we'll note, we're just 2 races in. We had Daytona where anybody can win. Look at how well our Championship 4 competitors are from last season. You have Casey Kerwin in 5th, Graham Bolin in 6th, and even Bobby Zielinski right now holding on to 12th in the standings.
And with that, we also got a quick look at the team standings as well.
Yeah, those team standings. Look, you can see Team Dillon is there on top, but because of Michael Conti, right, and how good he did, you could Junior Motorsports jumped up there to 8 spots because of that one race. Obviously, winning helps a lot. The other side of that, 2311 Racing dropping 6 spots after a rough night in Milwaukee. What I also like there, seeing Kanan Esports, seeing Front Row up there, seeing just the mixture of teams that are in the top 10 right now. It's good to see that early on in this year.
Yeah, there's I said, a little bit of shakeups, but it's good to see some of the ones we don't usually talk about also being mentioned. Before we move on to what we're looking forward to for Atlanta, we got to talk about your thoughts with Milwaukee.
Well, the one thing I really took note of is just the fact that it almost looked like a short track race out there at the Milwaukee Mile last week. The tempers were flaring early, and they were flaring off. You can see this contact right here. Colin Bowden and Michael Cozy Jr. got into it. Of course, Derek Bordeaux, we know that he had some issues. He even has a suspension tonight because of this move right here. He and Garrett Maines get collected, and later on, underneath that caution flag, he tags Vicente Salas, and that will put him behind. But you see Jimmy Mullis here with some issues as well. Once it got late in the going here and it was hard to make some moves, guys were willing to do anything to try to make a move, Alan.
Yeah, that was in the back of the field. I'm looking more toward the front of the field and what Michael Conti was able to do. I said going into this year, he can be this year's Kevin Harvick, and man, has he proven me right. Michael Conti going out on top, showing everybody he is still a winner, especially at a track like this, so technical, Milwaukee Mile. We know Michael Conti's history, but what he's still able to do at the end of his career, I know that it's not exactly the same parallel as Kevin Harvick, but still going out on top, proven still a winner. And I know there could be some shakeups by the playoffs time, but I firmly believe Michael Conti is going to race for a title this year. Again, just like Kevin Harvick going out on top.
Well, it's going to be interesting, especially because I feel like the start of the season has been somewhat unpredictable. We'll get more to that later in the show because it definitely reflects in my picks. But for now, we actually got a chance to catch up with the owner of Jim Beaver Esports. Yes, that's right, Mr. Jim Beaver himself, to talk about being close to a team championship and some of the off-season moves.
Well, right now, for me, for Jim Beaver, JB15, and Jim Beaver Esports, what keeps us coming back to the Coke Series is that ever-elusive first victory. I swear we have been the bridesmaids more often than not in this series. It is absolutely driving me nuts. My drivers have done a great, phenomenal job. I mean, Malik's having an amazing season. I hate to say a couple races in, but possibly a career year so far. But Malik's doing great. I mean, in the past, between Reynolds and Guest, we've been so eerily close to victories, and just somehow they've eluded us. So right now it's coming back. Last year went down to the wire for the team's championship. It was a nail biter. I feel like, 4 or 5 years in now, it's like we've hit our stride year in, year out. I think everybody else recognizes we're here to play. We work with our drivers. We really do our homework when it comes to signings and things like that. And just the competitiveness of eNASCAR is just crazy how close things are week in and week out. And I guess that's what really keeps me coming back. With me, when we look at our drivers, I've always tried to kind of diversify a little bit. I feel like you want your home run hitter, and then you also want, that guy that's going to consistently bat 300, and I think, with Lowe this year, that's what we got. He's our 300 hitter. Obviously, he's kind of struggled out of the box, but we went, he's going to be our guy week in, week out, top fives, things like that, and top fives, top tens, always going to be there. And then Malik, he was our home run hitter. It's like he's, he may strike out a few times, but he's going to come in and hit a home run, a few times a year. And, Malik's hit grand slams the first two weeks of the year so far, or the first two events. So, he's definitely, doing what we were hoping Malik was going to do. And, he's an interesting individual. He's got an amazing social media following, and we wanted to put him in an organization where we felt he could thrive and let Malik be Malik. And I think we were finding that this year that, we're kind of embracing his personality, kind of giving him, letting him do what he wants to do. And I think it's really coming back tenfold. And, and I think, with Lowe, we're going to see some great things from him this year. And, that's kind of how we've approached this season. And we do every year. It's like we want two completely different drivers, and that both bring different things to the table. We're a small fish in this, that's become a big player. Very fortunate enough. Matt and Chris behind the scenes with my organization just work their tail off, on the media and the marketing side of things. But, I think it's really important for me because we're in there with some of the biggest names in motorsports globally, and here's our little team. Somehow we found a way to be competitive with teams that are much, much larger with a lot more resources than we have. So, to me, that team's championship's important. If our little organization is 17th out of 20, it doesn't, it doesn't bode real well for longevity of our team. But, if we can all, be in the top 3 like we were last year, it goes down to the wire, top 5. That says a lot about how hard we work and, and the quality of the drivers and the people in our organization.
I love that. I love an engaged owner like Jim Beaver. I love to see them having success because he is so engaged, and he's right about Malik. I mean, hitting home runs, being at the top of the point standings, that's awesome no matter what time of the season. But to start off strong so early, then have another good track you could have tonight, that's great for that team.
Yeah, and you could see that Jim is very enthusiastic, you know, coming off with that finish last year with the season and being so close to the championship. I think they're pulling that energy through, and we'll see if it works out for them.
We'll see if it will. But, you know, Camille, one thing that we've been kind of looking and kind of looking back on when it comes to this series is looking back through the history of the Contender Series. And our crew did a great job looking at the success that can potentially come from drivers who move up from the Contender Series and particularly finishing in the top 3. We wanted to see, is there really a correlation between performance down one level and whether these drivers can make it happen in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series? You can see right there, Joey Brown, 2 wins this past year as he got back into the series. Jordy Lopez Jr. with 3 top 3s and Alan Bowes with 1 win. But in the entire history of the Contender Series, only 4 drivers have ever finished up there twice. Now, again, mind you, this is including relegation, but Ray Alfala, somebody that you may have heard of named Josh Berry, has done it a couple of times. Alan Bowes as well, who is still competing tonight for Front Row Motorsports, and Ashton Crowder are the only 4 drivers who have ever finished top 3 in the Contender Series more than one time. Now, looking at our championships, it is not necessarily a thing that you finish well down in that series and it necessarily translates to a championship. Only 4 have finished top 3 of the Contender Series and eventually gone on to win a championship. Michael Conti, Zach Novak, who's looking at the championship trophy right there, Nick Ottinger, and Richard Towler, the inaugural series champion, are the only 4 who have managed to do that. Now, of course, in the relegation era, there's only been one person that has gone straight from the Contender Series and the next season won in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and it's that man right there. Ryan Luza is the only one who has accomplished that feat. And now, of course, in this playoff era, which includes 2016 and beyond, at least one of the top 3 from the Contender Series is still in the Coke Series today. So a long laundry list of people. The only ones we're excluding are Crowder, Mitchell DeYoung, and Isaac Gann. We have a whole bunch of drivers who have been down there and succeeded a number of times, and Dylan Duval, Bobby Zelensky, Colin Keister, and, of course, former series champion in Keegan Leahy. And one of the top 3 has been relegated every single year. That's another thing that proves that the top 3 may not necessarily be the key to getting back to the Coke Series. Derek Bordeaux, Ryan Luza, Bobby Zelensky have been included in that as well. Another thing that kind of proves that it may not necessarily be the key to success, the top 3 has combined for less than 4 wins in subsequent Coke Series seasons. Again, that's dating all the way back to 2016. Those 3 wins include Ashton Crowder, you could see right there in 2019, Ray Alfala at Charlotte in 2020, and Mitchell DeYoung twice, which, to be fair, not a lot of people were going to beat Mitchell DeYoung at a road course. So when looking at success, I think the one trend that we found is that, well, you can have a lot of success down in the Contender Series, but when you get to the NASCAR Coca-Cola Series, it is an entirely different animal.
It is an entirely different track of competition that you have to go after. And we also heard from Jim Beaver earlier, so why not catch up with the drivers that are part of Jim Beaver? We have Malik Ray and Garrett Means.
So I'll be joining Jim Beaver Esports for 2023 season. Jim Beaver and his whole group have been a long-standing background team of mine. I worked with a bunch of their guys back in the day when I was running the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series. So to be back with them in a halfway way is pretty cool.
I've heard that Jim's a pretty nice individual, and I know that he treats his players like very well because I had a teammate that was there last year. So I know that he's good people and whatnot. And my goal for this year is to win Atlanta. I feel like I'm pretty good at plate racing. At the new Atlanta, it's kind of like the same thing. So I feel like I'll do good at each of those tracks as long as I don't get wrecked, which is a big part of it.
I think you can definitely expect me to be back in victory lane in 2023. I'm one of the hardest working guys in the series. I think most people are definitely aware of that. And we have a really good group behind us this year supporting our Jim Beaver car. So we're going to have a really strong year, and I'm looking forward to putting a few wins in the checkbox. My secret to victory this season is just going to be hard work and dedication.
Well, see, the thing is I haven't won a race yet, so I can't tell you. I haven't won a race. So I can't tell you what's the secret because I hadn't even won yet. If I could say that if there is a secret, it would probably be to you have to qualify up front because our races are a lot a lot shorter now. They're like at 80 and 90 laps, and they used to be 150, 160. So normally we'll take the green flag at like 9:08, and the race is done by 10:15. So you kind of have to be on top of your stuff the whole race.
I think my biggest rival this season is probably going to be my teammate Malik Ray, just because we have such an interesting dynamic. I don't think any other team in the series has two guys that are quite so different personalities, with Malik being very outgoing and me being a little bit more on the reserve side. So having those two dynamics ought to be a little interesting, but I think it'll make us good rivals on track.
Jordy Lopez, the man that is behind the camera sitting to your right. He talks a lot of junk, and sometimes he does not back it up. There has been some cases of where he has, but 9 times out of 10, he does not. So that's why I'm just happy that he's now in the series. So now there's no excuses, because I used to give him crap for not being in the series, and now he's finally in it. If I was to make it to Homestead in the Final Four, it'd be great. I'd love that. That'd be something that I wouldn't have think that I would accomplish in my wildest dreams. So I'd be very happy about that if I was to make it to that point.
Racing in the Final Four would mean the world to me. I made the playoffs 3 out of 4 years in the series, and I've come up 2-3 points short on multiple occasions. And I just need to get that little final push to be in the Final Four, and that'd mean the world to me to just have a shot at the championship at the end of the day.
To win the championship would mean a lot to me. First thing I'd probably do is go to Chick-fil-A afterwards the following day. And then after that, I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
Hey, if Malik wins, I'm going with you to Chick-fil-A, and you're paying, buddy. But that great interview there. I love those teammates. I love the personality. And I love sneakily what Garrett said. His biggest competition may be his teammate. Maybe they face off for a championship later this year. That'll be pretty fun.
Well, I think that's the best way to look at it. Fried chicken and all. Keep your eye on the goal. But for now, you know what I love? You both know this. That is right. I love to see everyone's rigs at home. It is time for Show Us Your Rigs. This is brought to you by partners at Logitech, with our first rig coming from Nate. Nate is an eNASCAR College iRacing Series driver as well. And let's just say the monitors don't lie.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Nate, especially if that's at college. I mean, I envy your dorm room there. Look at this from Paul. Look at this desktop setup from Paul. I mean, whatever it takes to get on the track. I love it.
Yeah, and you even got the Xbox controller there.
Yeah.
Apparently that's what he drives with, is what we hear, which again, you do not need a steering wheel and pedals, although very much recommended. And this is my guy, Fly Guy. If you haven't, look up that name. Go follow him on Twitter. Go follow him on Twitch. He's an amazing guy. I love watching his streams, and nice little setup he's got right here to stream with.
Need a little cord management. We got to point that out sometimes, but love it, Fly Guy. Love it.
Well, you don't see that behind the camera, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, this one, there's not a lot of mess or cable management that has to be done here. This is from Stravato, a super tidy setup. But then if you look closely on the left side of that picture, we got some trash there. You just throw all the trash on the floor. That's how you keep your setup clean.
Not very tidy.
Yeah, hey, you don't want to leave. You don't want to leave the seat. You got to do what you got to do. And then another one here, Alex Bell. Nice, clean, simple. Love the seat. Again, whatever it takes to get you on the track. Good setup here.
Efficiency in space. You got the window right next to you can look out of. And, I'd say this is a pretty good one as well.
At NASCAR, who is, looks like an evil, he's wearing an Evil Knievel suit or something. I don't know how you can, get in that rig with that big helmet thing on, but maybe it works. Maybe it works out for. Yeah, looking forward to the street race in Chicago, which of course was born here on iRacing in the Coke Series we saw last year. I still don't know about Mr. Is that a penguin? Is that a bird?
The Chicago Blackhawk. Yeah. You gotta love it. It looks good. Make sure to show us your rigs at home using the hashtag eNASCAR and tagging both NASCAR and iRacing. Now, we got to look through your rigs at home, but you know what else screams simulation racing? Guys, do you know what else?
No.
Basketball. Okay, usually not, but this time around it definitely did, because on Sunday night's game, Malik Ray, Michael Conti, Nick Ottinger, Casey Kerwin represented eNASCAR at the Charlotte Hornets Venom GT night. And look at this, they are introducing two fans to iRacing, getting them acquainted. Where was our invite?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I live just down the street, but look, instead of me, they had the champion there. So they were helping the kids out. And then they're watching the game, right? They're watching NBA basket. Wait, what is this?
Wait a second. No, you know these drivers. They are iRacing fans.
That was the cup race at Phoenix. Yeah. I was watching it too, so I was right there with them. But come on, shout out to the Charlotte Hornets. They're struggling a little bit. So I'm glad iRacing Coke Series was there to represent.
Yes, for sure. It's great having the drivers out IRL just to really interact with people that may not have gotten a chance to be introduced to iRacing. Now, it is obviously Atlanta, which means that there's lots of heat coming in. The heat wave, the hot Atlanta energy is here. So I thought it may be great, because we're a little bit into the series, to kind of check in on whether you think certain things are going to happen throughout this year. So we're calling this the ATL Heat Check. I'm going to ask you both a few questions, and you're going to give me your answer on whether this is going to happen or whether it's going to not. All right, let's go. Blake, this one is for you. Will more than one driver get their first win in 2023?
That's going to be an easy yes. And if we're playing a little bit of spoiler, I'm picking a first-time winner tonight. So, yes, I think we get more than one first-time winner that we've already had this season.
All right. Alan, this one's for you. Will we see 10 different winners in 2023?
I'm going to say yes, because last year I said no, and I was wrong. So I want to be right this year. More than 10 winners, another great playoff battle, because winning may not guarantee you a playoff spot.
Okay, Blake, this one's a tough one. Will Bobby Z make Championship 4 in 2023?
I'm only going to say it not because I don't believe in Bobby, but I just think the competition is so good. I'm going to go with no. It is tough to get back to the Championship 4. I know he's done it a lot in his career, but it's a tough thing to do. So I'm going to say no this year for Bobby Z.
I felt the chills with that one. That one was cold as ice. Blake, all right, Alan, for you, are we going to see Casey Kerwin again as a repeat championship winner?
I'm going with yes. Why not? I mean, look what he's done. He did it so well last year, live in front of the audience at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and he's off to a great start this year. He's just so good, so dedicated. How could I pick against him? And if you want a preview for my pick, maybe we're going toward the 95, but we'll save that for later.
Okay, Blake, we heard that Alan is definitely rooting for Casey, but do you see a repeat winner for this year?
Yeah, I think we do see a repeat winner. Heck, Michael Conti's already won his second race of the year. I think he's a pretty good contender to repeat for a win. As many winners as we get, I still think we'll have a couple that are able to do it multiple times.
All right, and with that, Alan, you're going to take this question home. Are we going to see a rookie make it to Championship 4?
No, absolutely not. I'm not hating on the rookies, but this is the Coke Series. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard for rookies. It's supposed to be hard for first-timers just getting up here. No, there's too much talent already staying here that didn't get relegated. No rookies in the Final Four.
All right, there were some pretty hot takes in there, and obviously it is hot Atlanta, so we got to take a look at the track. Blake, take us through.
Let's take you through Atlanta Motor Speedway. Again, this has been repaved, and is a new configuration of this racetrack, and the banking here is tall. 28 degrees of banking, only 5 on the straightaways. The shape of this racetrack for the most part has not changed, but they have narrowed it up a little bit, added a lot of banking, and again, I think it's going to like it in itself to Daytona. You saw Steven Wilson won last year, but again, that was on an entirely different configuration of this racetrack. We'll take a look here in a lap around Atlanta Motor Speedway. Notice the tri-oval is going to be a trouble spot for these cars that are really sketchy because they have trimmed these things out. They are fast because of the amount of banking that you see right here, 28 degrees, and you're pretty much wide open. Look at that throttle there in the top left-hand part of your screen. That is all the way down to the floor. These cars are trimmed out. They are ready to go fast. But again, they are going to really be touchy, be sketchy here through the tri-oval, especially here down to that red line. It is going to be an interesting night, to say the least.
Yes, it will be interesting. And, we have Steven Wilson that took it last year on the different configuration. So it'll be interesting to see who takes it this time around, especially because we're talking picks. Blake, let's kick things off because the points are not in my favor.
Let's look at the points quick.
Yeah, I know. I'm really upset that this is not working for me. I think it was all the bragging at the beginning of the season that really did not do me well with karma. But Blake, you are in second. Alan wants to boast a bit, so we'll just let him just cool off before we get to him.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Camille, you couldn't have done worse. But as far as my pick for tonight, I am going to go with a first-time winner tonight. He's leading the points right now. I think a track like this is right up his alley. I'm going to take Malik Radic, finally get it done and get the victory lane.
Oh, good pick. That'd be a fun pick. And Camille, just a reminder, this isn't golf. You want a high score. You don't want the low score. This is racing. You want the high score. So I'm going with Steady Eddie. New track, new scenario, right? Who do we go with? We know who's good. Casey Kerwin, the champ, started off in Daytona. Probably should have won there. Didn't, has a good race in Milwaukee. Steady Eddie, Casey Kerwin for the win tonight.
All right, some harsh words from the both of you, but guess what? I'm going to channel that energy, and I'm going to choose Casey Kerwin. Go for what I know. So, Alan, you better hope that my bad luck does not come for your points as well.
Oh, I hope not, because you should play the lottery. Getting 2 points in the first 2 races, I mean, that's got to be 1 in a million shot.
Yes, it is 1 in a million, but please let it end tonight because we got a race ahead of us. This is Atlanta. Alan, Blake, thank you so much. Be sure to continue watching right after this break as we get to the track.
I need to try it first.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Here and now is when it matters most.
Heavy damage.
Not last month or last week or 48 laps ago when that bumper fell off.
He's done.
Here is where it must be left on the track. The anger, the hunger, the passion, and the drive to do whatever it takes to make it across that finish line first.
Blow those rear tires off us, bud.
Now is when the future is written. In the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
This is our series, where the stakes are always higher, where virtual meets reality. This is the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Yeah, look at my shine with the glow. This is my time with it though. This is my time to be way up the top. Me and my guys gon' pay out the block. I don't look like Paul. Time's right, and I know the seats walking in a long night. Promise you gon' wanna watch like a sci-fi. My guys are high risers, high tide. My crown if you come to my side. I pledge allegiance for lifetime. My squad connected like Wi-Fi. We grind and you see the highlights. This my life. It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you wanna play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 speeds through Hotlanta at iRacing's virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2023 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And as always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday night with us on the iRacing Esports Network. As always, my name is Evan Pasoko, joined alongside by Blake McCandless and Blake Atlanta, a track so full of history. But tonight, we make history with a rare Atlanta first.
That is true, Evan. Again, you think all the way back to the 1990s and how much change this racetrack has gone through. It was known as being worn out and slick, and we even had that in the series last year, but we throw all that out the window now. It is a new version of Atlanta, and with that is a brand new opportunity for a lot of drivers to really continue to make an early season push to put themselves in contention for this championship.
It is going to be a thriller of a night as we get set for 100 laps of action here virtually from Hampton, Georgia, and the best 40 sim racers on the planet are ready to go at it. It is an experience unlike any other. You can try to compare it to some of the other fast intermediates. You can try to compare it to the likes of Daytona, Talladega. That is just not possible. Let's go trackside. Take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid, and Ryan Luza for the X-Set going to bring us to the green flag tonight alongside Jim Beaver Esports' Malik Ray.
Take that out.
Number 2, we'll see Alan Bose and Keegan Leahy 2311 in Front Row Motorsports. It's the Elliott Sadler Esports 27 of Cody Bias with the FGR Excel 14 of Joey Brown on row 3. Michael Conti's Junior Motorsports number 8 Chevrolet alongside the second of the Jim Beaver entries. That's the 15 of Machida Garrett Lowe. And your top 10 will be rounded out by the Charlotte Phoenix's number 48 of Graham Bolin and Team Dillon Esports' Tucker Minter.
The inside of row number 6 has RFK Racing's Timmy Holmes alongside Kevin King representing Junior Motorsports. Back to row 7 is Bobby Zielinski for JGR and Steven Wilson for Stewart-Haas Racing, looking to get back in the top 30 in the points. Row 8, Michael Koji Jr. for Front Row Motorsports starts alongside Ryan Doucette. Those black and yellow colors will try to get up front. Casey Kerwin, the defending champion for X-Set Gaming, in 17th, and Brandon McKissick for Steve Letarte Esports in 18th. E-Racers Colin Bowden starts 19th, and Wyatt Tinsley for the Kansas City Pioneers rolls off with his number in 20th.
There you go, and halfway home you'll find Donovan Strauss for William Esports in the second of those Pioneers entries, the 31 of Derek Justice on row 11. Then it's the Stewart-Haas 41 of Dylan Duvall alongside the Letarte Esports number 40 of Dylan Alt. Lucky row 13, we'll see the Tony Kanani Sports 11 of Parker White alongside the FGR XL number 12 of Garrett Maines. Row 14, we'll see the Williams 55 of Vicente Salas and the Charlotte Phoenix 43 of Femi Olat. And then through your top 30, it's a Team Dillon number 3 of Jordy Lopez and the Joe Gibbs Racing of 54 of Daniel Falkingham.
The opposite 2311 entry, and Michael Guest starts 31st with Caden Honeycutt, the other RFK entry, in 32nd. Tyler Gary starts 33rd for Tony Kanaan. 34th is William Byron Esports' Nick Ottinger, who was runner-up last week. 35th is Colin Keister for E-Racer, and Matt Busa for William Byron Esports will start 36th. Zach Novak for Rise Esports with an all-Rise Esports row in 38th for Jimmy Mullis as well. Corey Vincent will bring up the rear in row 20. And one driver, Evan, not making the starting grid tonight, Derek Bordeaux, after a suspension last week at the Milwaukee Mile.
Heard you guys talk about that one on Countdown to Green. Going to be a tough week for him to miss out on. Let's dial up the driver of the number 4 Chevrolet. Ryan Luza is on the pole tonight. You're with him, Blake.
Ryan Luza starting out front here at Atlanta. I know this is a track that a lot is going to happen, but how do you feel having the best vantage point in the house?
I don't really know how to feel about it. Wasn't expecting the pole run. Just wanted to put a lap down and kind of ride around on the back. But we're starting on the pole here, so just going to kind of see what happens. But more than likely, I'll probably end up riding around, but we'll see if we can keep this track position.
All right, so you say riding around. Does that mean falling back to 10th or 20th? Or do you think at all you may change your mind and try to stay out front?
If I can stay out front, I will. But no, I meant like right around in the back because I think this race is going to be pretty wild. Y'all will see here once we go green, but probably going to be 3 wide, a lot of rows deep, and maybe some big carnage. So just really want to miss that stuff. And I guess being first is the best place we can be.
All right, Ryan. Well, we'll watch you. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Triple sitter Ryan Luza as he gets his 10th career eNASCAR iRacing Series pole. That good enough for 6th on the all-time wins list. Walk us through this one as we look at our iRacing race analysis.
And this one going to be pretty straightforward. 100 laps, only going to be one stop next necessary really to try and take fuel. Again, we don't have the pit lane delta that they may be going with this weekend, so only 21 to 24 seconds. 3 sets of tires available, although that will not be much of a factor with this brand new racing surface. And I think Ryan Luza put it best, Evan. This is going to be a race that is chaotic, and I don't even know if these drivers even know what to expect.
Buckle up because it is going to be a wild one for the first time on the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. Pace car going to dive in the next time through, so these drivers have a little bit more time to kind of think this thing through and as maybe best you can mentally prepare. You see that very wide apron on the inside of the front straightaway. That is in play. Drivers going to be using every inch of this surface. In a season that has seen a little bit of everything thus far. We've seen one of the old-time vets just 2 weeks ago, Blake, and Michael Conti take home a win, but well, a couple of weeks before that in Daytona, it was the true rookie and Tucker Minter winning in the Daytona openers. So we'll continue to see, do we see more new race winners? Can the vets step up? And there's a look in at the field of competitors. One last opportunity to take a deep breath.
Relatively calm right now. You can see everybody kind of stretching out, getting those last couple of brief moments in before they really lock in here for the next 100 laps. And that is what it is going to take, a ton of focus. These teams, these spotters that many of these drivers have, going to have a lot of communication tonight with which lanes are moving, what line you want to run, and of course anything that could happen in a moment's notice in front of you. Going to be a lot to have to worry about.
So 39 cars strong, ready to go for the third race of this 18-round championship. A couple of unique racetracks coming up in a few weeks. Richmond, the first trip to the road course in Italy at Monza. A plate race truly at Talladega, but tonight, a big unknown. Pace car down and infield in the hands of the number 4 Chevrolet of Ryan Luza. For the first time, we say, let's go racing at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. And not much movement yet to the center of turns 1 and 2. Tightly packed onto the inside of the racetrack. A little bit of movement up top as they come off of 2, though nobody near the outside wall yet.
No, and either it is going to be kind of the lanes we see right now, although further back in the pack, you could see a little bit of 3 wide already starting to happen, and I think you'll kind of see these guys funnel out, much of like what we saw at Daytona, although they're already 3 wide, multiple rows in front of the field, and you mentioned it, Evan, that red line. There is no out of bounds tonight, so that is going to be in play, and these guys are wasting no time as the top lane has formed up with a lot of cars. Leading the charge is Keegan Leahy.
topping off at 187 miles an hour, but they only shave off about 5 to 6 of that in the corner, still in the 180s as they come off of 4. And it's a tricky spot for the number 4 machine to lose to be in, because he's got to go down to make sure he does not open up the inside for the likes of Alan Bowes and others. You see the number 23, Keegan Leahy, leading that outside line. He's got a little bit of a draft pushed right now, but as they come off of 2, the 7, Malik Ray going to bounce up top. He's got the push for the 14 to Joey Brown.
I think you're going to see this multiple times. You do not want to be in the middle. Look how quickly that middle lane has died off. And if you've watched any real-life racing with these next-gen cars at kind of these super speedway tracks, they kind of talk about it, that when you get in the middle, you kind of get side drafted from both sides, and you just really have nowhere to go. So you're going to want to be on that outside for now, but you do not want to get trapped in the middle, as now you see shoving his way up top was Cody Bias there.
Now a little bit of a breakaway as that trio on the inside gets a little bit of separation back to this casiness here, as you can see the iRacing drone cam right on top of the action. 3 by 3 by what, 7 rows deep as they sit right now. There is nowhere for the cars in the middle lane to make a move, and it is allowing that lead group to push away just a little bit. Now, Malik Ray into 4th. Lead car up top had an advantage. He'll get crossed up. That was a nice move to the inside. An aggressive one, though, by Keegan Leahy down to the bottom.
Well, and I think the last place you'd want to be is on that bottom, as you see everybody kind of cutting the dogleg here. And oh, Keegan Leahy slides through. They're 4 wide. Graham is beneath the apron, and they make 4 wide work. I don't know how in the world that was not a large crash, but what a drive right there by Graham Bolin to collect it on the flat and safely re-emerge back on the racetrack. That is incredible.
Yeah, that was the key, right? They survived the first little bit, but then blending back up mid-corner was what I thought was going to end it for sure, but somehow they all hang on. Not for lack of trying, though. Some sketchy opening laps here in Atlanta, and what that did was break up the gridlock of 3 by 3. All that checking up and all of those near misses really evaporated that large group that we had, and now there's a lot of single file. Maybe that'll give it an opportunity to catch these 3. Luz, Bose, and Conti have done everything but go too wide. They've stuck together, single file on the bottom, and it has given them almost a 1-second advantage over P4 on back right now.
This is kind of reminiscent of what I think of a couple years ago at Talladega, when we had a group of about 7 or 8 cars that were able to break away from the entire field just because they saw everything going on behind them. They decided to stay committed to one another, and you could see the end result right here. Luza still out front, Alan Bowes tucked in with him, Michael Conti. He probably couldn't make a move if he wanted to because he has nobody behind him. We know these next-gen cars take a lot in numbers to try and make a move, but the rest of the field kind of has to sort themselves out because they are continuing to make up time here in this front pack. They're a little bit faster, at least they were that last time, than that second pack. So if they want a chance to catch them, they got to sort things out pretty quickly.
Right now, it's pretty stagnant, no gains or losses. You can see that snake accordion effect as they kind of cut the 2 dog legs here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We talk about this newest configuration of Atlanta. Those dog legs once upon a time was the new Atlanta Motor Speedway when it was reconfigured from its original oval layout. As you can see lap traffic at the bottom, they're going to work their way around the 40 of Dylan Alt. He's going to drop a lap down in 39th position. And there's a look off of the back end of P3 runner Michael Conti. A second advantage no longer. Here comes the number 7 Ford, and it's a trio of blue ovals trying to make a move. Malik Ray can look to the outside, but Conti using the mirror. He wants that to push to his own advantage.
So does Bose, so does Luza, so they all moved up to the top. They're all pushing and shoving each other. All it takes is one bad bump, and all of this is going to come raveling down, as you can see the amount of separation and the fact that 23rd on back is about 2.5 seconds behind this pack. So they are, I think, patiently waiting for something to happen up here, for the fuse to be lit, if you will. It's Alan Bowes now to the outside of Ryan Luza, gets a push from Malik Ray, and Bowes clear to the race lead.
First time Alan Bose has had a taste of that clean air tonight. The outside, magic number 3, cars ahead of the bottom. As they come off of 4, they make a step down to the inside of the racetrack, and now the 12 going to make his own move up top. So now Garrett Maines, the instigator, pushed by the 10 of Steven Wilson, going to keep things gridlocked. It's been a blink of an eye already, 13 laps in of 100, and you can see this lead pack has broken away from 23rd on back. So your lead pack, 22 strong, then a 3.5 second gap to the group on the right-hand side of your screen from 23rd on back.
They did make up a lot of time that last lap, and the one thing I'm seeing, though, here, Evan, is the fact that when we get on this front straightaway, the fact that they are allowed to go beneath that red line, there's a banking change there, and it upsets the handling of these cars. That's almost what caused that initial crash that just somehow wasn't a crash with Graham Bolin. But it really sets these guys up to not only, because there's really no clear lane to go down there, there's no clear line, but you can see there's a banking transition when these guys kind of hop down onto the apron, and at some point you have to think that somebody's not going to hit it perfectly right, and we know with these next-gen cars, once you get it a little bit sideways, it's a goner, and it's very, very hard to bring back.
And there's a jump on board the roof of Lima, Ohio's Alan Bose on the inside. He's led the last 3 laps of this Atlanta 150. And he, again, has to continue to use the bottom of the racetrack to protect. But the bump draft up top, and look at the lock between the 12 and the 10, as it was Wilson pushing Maines to his first lap lead of the afternoon. Some 3 wide, about 4 or 5 rows back. And as Maines goes to the lead, he needs to decide, does he want to stay up top? Does he want to go to the bottom? Malik Ray had an opportunity to go to the race lead no more than 5 laps ago. Now he's in a bit of a tricky spot, leading the middle line. He's going to need some more drafting support for that lane to not die out, as he is right in the thick of things.
The one thing I've seen, and I saw this from the grandstands at Atlanta last year, I'm a fan of the high line. It is very hard to make that pass or complete it, whether you're in the middle, whether you're on the bottom. I feel like when you go to the very top lane, when we're 3 wide like this, if you go to the outside, you're at least going forward. As soon as you go down to the bottom, you saw Ray drop down, you saw Alan Bose drop down. Luza and Conti, well, look where they're at right now. They are not up there in the race lead. So personally, I just think that you have to kind of ride the outside here until something happens to try and move forward. Because once you're on the bottom, once you're in the middle, there's so few options to try to make anything happen. And golly, they are just inches off of each other. And we're kind of reaching that point in the run, Evan, that handling is going to become a factor at some point. These practice races that these guys ran yesterday, this is around that time where if you have an ill-handling car, it's going to start to show itself right now, and that's when you're going to have a lot of very sketchy moments.
Well, we always compare, and you can't not compare this to a Daytona and a Talladega. Obviously, the racetrack is much smaller, tighter turn radius, it's smaller total distance as well. But, you know, even at Daytona and Talladega, it doesn't seem this hectic, right? I mean, people can be 3 wide and they can be riding at Talladega. It doesn't seem like that's the case, Blake, from a driver's perspective. Same concept of racing, but what makes this so different than those traditional plate tracks?
It's the awkward shape of the tri-oval and how narrow the straightaways are. I think that's the biggest difference, is that at Daytona, this is how wide Daytona is in the corners right here, but you get on this straightaway, you have that red line down there, and on the front straightaway, that dogleg kind of acts like a thinning out mechanism, if you will, just because of the banking difference.
And look at that move. The 7 car darts to the outside, then slices back down to the middle. Is anybody surprised that Malik Ray is the one who wants to go early? He'll now find himself with the back bumper of the 95 of Casey Kerwin in the middle. It's Wilson's opportunity to lead up top, and look out. Colin Bowden smoke show off a 2 as he got help from behind. The 41 of Dylan Duvall got him a little bit in that left rear quarter panel, and that was a great save.
We've seen that a couple of times. I know you look at races like Milwaukee last week, and we see these guys kind of run into some issues. Well, this is why these guys are the best in the world. That save that Graham Bolin made earlier, that one that Colin Bowden just made, that happens anywhere else in the iRacing service. That's a crash. As you can see right here from second place, all that is going on with Garrett Baines in front of, behind him, both in the real world and virtually.
And you can see a little bit of the team communication there as well. Normally a confident driver, but he's looking a little bit nervous in this big lead pack, James.
Yeah, I just checked in with the radio at Garrett Baines. It's constant information from his crew chief and spotter, Seth Ryder, just telling him where people are in relation to his car, who's in what line, whether or not he's clear, whether or not he's boxed in with traffic. It is a constant stream of information. By contrast, when Malik Way was in control of this race with his team, it was all just, who's behind me, who's behind me, who's behind me. These drivers run a lot of races on the service. They don't just run in the Coke Series. There's tons of official competing that they do against one another. And there's sort of a notebook of who these drivers trust and who they don't. And I got the impression that Malik was trying to figure out who is in the line behind him that he trusts and who is in the line behind him that he might not trust. And that was a large part in determining what lane he wanted to be in. So interesting to see the different contrasts of styles and what these drivers want in terms of information from their spotters and crew chiefs that's at the front of this pack.
It seems like it might not be easy to do so as far as I'm just going to go and make a move, but certainly the opportunities have been there, Blake, to make passes early as that 14 car is going to get checked up on the outside. Garrett Baines up 21 spots. Dylan Duvall up 19 spots. What is the benefit to racing this aggressively up front? Is it the concern that if you hang back, you're not going to get up into the mix in time, or how does that balance out? Because in plate races, and you even heard Ryan Luza describe it, so oftentimes drivers will simply say, I'm going to hang out at the back and take it easy. How do you kind of ration that strategy at a place so unique like this?
Well, for me, I've always thought you need to be one of two places. You need to be in the very front or the very back, and that's it. I've had enough races go by where I've tried to be conservative, and you end up getting wrecked anyway, and you end up thinking, well, at least I could have tried, or I could have tried to make moves, and I think that's kind of changed the mentality of how super speedway racing is nowadays. I mean, you think about how often everybody goes on their podcasts and talks about, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the fact that the mentality is you have to prove to these guys that you can make moves, that you have a car that's capable of making moves, that you can be trusted to push somebody or to work with somebody. You can't do that if you're just sitting back and riding around. Now, the contrast is at a place like this, because of how narrow it is, that if a wreck does happen, there's not going to be 2 or 3 cars in it. There's going to be 15, 20 cars at the front of the pack that are all going to suffer significant damage. So if you think that's going to happen, and based off of the practice races yesterday, that wouldn't be it wouldn't be too shocking of a revelation if that were to happen. So I think you either need to be where Malik Ray is right now in the front, or you need to be in 39th right now.
Well, somebody who enjoys where they are is Jim Beaver, of course, with Jim Beaver Esports leading the inside and the outside lanes right now, with Malik Ray up top and the 15 machine of Garrett Lowe on the bottom. We've seen points in this race where things have spread out just a little bit, but one driver in the middle of it all is Zach Novak. We have talked extensively, Blake, about the special paint schemes that this team has been running all season long in relation to the cities in which we've been visiting. And how about that throwback on Zach Novak's 75 car tonight?
Yeah, I love that paint scheme. A very, very nice tribute there to Kevin Harvick's 2001 Atlanta win. Paint scheme, which if you open Papyrus NASCAR Racing 2002 season, that was the first paint scheme that you saw. And of course, even top left-hand corner, guess who's in that Jeff Gordon suit right there? That is our director-producer, Drew Adamson, sitting in the garage at that time in Atlanta. So very cool little tribute right there.
That very race, 2001 Atlanta. It's a heck of a race to be your first at the racetrack. I think a little bit more memorable than mine, which probably was 2013 Las Vegas Spring. I think a Matt Kenseth race win. Certainly a good race, but what a historic race to be able to see for your very first time, and a really good job by that entire Rise Esports fielded by Sudoku team to continue the trend of having a paint scheme that speaks to the place that we're racing in, and also mixing it up, right? Not just doing a themed paint on both, but also having a throwback to that Kevin Harvick design. So certainly cool to see that, and that's something we look forward to checking out every single week, as you're looking at a lead pack in which the top 19 race cars are separated by less than 1 second. and already 1/3 of the way nearly through this race.
And we have seen just jockeying back and forth. Nobody really able to stake their claim up here at the front of the field. Dylan Duval and Colin Bowden, you can see behind him what's been going on. And it's not sports this time. It doesn't look like, Evan.
Yeah, I figure, I mean, it's March, so it's got to be something on, but maybe we just got him at a bad time. Maybe we're just on commercial. We'll have to circle back and see what Colin's really watching tonight. But I know what he is watching is his mirror out behind him, because he's in a really good spot, and he is, I don't know, maybe a little bit nervous, right? What is Malik going to do? What Alan Bose is going to do? I mean, that 7 car is always looking for an opportunity to advance his position. And in fact, on that cue, Colin Bowden talking with Malik Ray over the Open Driver radio channel, trying to coordinate kind of what they are going to do on corner exit is that 7 car kind of darted to the middle of the racetrack, and there's a huge shove. Everybody pushing quite aggressively down the tri-oval, off and into the corner. This tri-oval actually like relatively flat compared to, I was going to say other similar intermediate racetracks. Can't say that anymore, but a relatively flat tri-oval compared to some other 1.5 mile tracks.
Relatively flat, but then you get to the apron, and that is truly about flat. So you really get the contrast here in the dogleg at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But you have to be aggressive to push, because you can see how much it pays off in speed. You can see the exchange there between Steven Wilson, Casey Kerwin, and Dylan Duval, and just how that push continues to further that outside line, continues to move them along. And you see the contrast there. Colin Bowden and Malik Ray not able to do the same on the bottom. They'll drop back a couple of rows.
So far, so good at Atlanta. We have had 8 different drivers lead a lap already tonight. Right now, it's Dylan Duval in front of the field, 35 down, 65 to go. A lot of racing left at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
When I hit the wall, this thing shook like crazy. I have experienced that in real life, so I can compare.
I tend to choose rally games that are really putting the actuators through their paces, and they've been holding up really well.
That's exactly how it is in real life. That's the coolest part.
There's a thin line in the NASCAR Xfinity Series between winning and losing, between being the future and being past, between headlines and tailspins, between making history and being it, between the sweet taste of victory and the fumes of defeat. In the NASCAR Xfinity Series, there's a thin line between being a name they know and being a name they'll never forget.
Back live from Atlanta, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by D-Box. Make body and racing simulator become one. Improve your virtual race time with D-Box motion technology, providing ultra-precise movements and vibration cues while racing online. It has been a wild one so far from Hotlanta, but still without a yellow. 41 laps into this race. Not for lack of trying. You take a look at the massive pack off of the back of race leader Dylan Duval. We are already, Blake, almost halfway home in this race.
Well, and what comes with that is green flag pit stops at any point right now. Anybody could pit and make it to the end. And I don't think they'll take the risk necessarily this early to try and come down and potentially lose some laps. But we are in that window that if there is a large group that decides to kind of pit early, and with the group, if we see some manufacturers alignment or teammates that are going to come down or different teams working together, we can start to see that at this point. So we are within that window, and whether we get there, we'll see. But at least the possibility is open. And with that, again, we are using I guess the old pit road entrance, not the new one that they're going to be debuting this weekend in each of the 3 NASCAR National Series. So coordinating and getting down to pit road here, it is very tough with how much speed you're carrying and the different degrees of banking now at this racetrack. This is going to be a tough pit road to get on, especially under green and especially when we're 3 wide.
You're going to have to get down to the inside of the racetrack if you're going to want to get down pit road. And when you're 2-3 wide, if everybody were to just single file out, it would triple the size and length of this lead pack, right? You can't just decide, all right, I'm going to turn left now and get down to the inside of the racetrack. So it's going to take some finesse. You see about a 4-car advantage on the top. Again, everybody in this race with the exception of about 3 cars right now. Derek Justice is 2 laps down in 39th. He just pitted on his own. Dylan Alt's number 40 car is a lap down in 38th. We saw him get lapped earlier in this race in the Coke Zero Sugar Chevrolet. And the Matt Boost is number 97. 37th is the last car on the lead lap. He's about a half a lap behind your race leaders and is actually in threat of being lapped soon just based on race pace. So those are the only 3 cars not really in this pack that we're currently looking at as we get closer and closer to the halfway point to get inside of that window to make it to the end of this Atlanta 150. That big key obviously was the fuel windows. Pretty massive, Blake. So you mentioned we're well within the window. It's going to come down to coordinating, but if you assume 68's the max, I mean, we still have 20 laps until they need to come down pit road. Does it make any sense to wait that long, or are we going to see most of this action happen right in the middle at 50?
Well, again, I don't think we've really seen a lot of tire fall off as we've gone along through this run. There's been a little bit where we've slowed up, just slightly from where we were at the beginning of the run. But as a pack, collectively, we're running pretty similar speeds. So I don't think you're going to see it splitting it right down the middle in 50 just because, the tire situation isn't really going to matter as much as having a bunch of drafting partners. But I think you're going to see most teams kind of push the distance, right? Because if you go early and you guess wrong, well, guess what? You just lost a bunch of laps. On the contrast, though, if you can have about 6 or 7 drivers all with each other come down and pit and they're pushing and they're not 2-3 wide like these guys are now, they can make up a little bit of time. So it's just kind of a risk versus reward situation. As you can see Wyatt Tinsley right there, open wheel rim. We've started to see that a lot more often as there is trouble behind them, and he saved it. I think it was Parker White, heard a little bit of noise as he tried to collect it, and I think for the most part he kept it straight.
Somebody was frustrated over the radio, and I know that Jimmy Mullis was involved in this one as well because his name has dropped down the scoring pylon. Mullis all the way down to 36th position. A really good looking race car in his own right. One of those other Sunoco special Georgia State themed peach car, but it was not a good 1 and 2 for him. But for the 3rd or 4th time tonight, there has been an accident on the racetrack, but it has not gone to a yellow. A couple of cars got together, got up into the outside wall, but the majority of this lead pack stays alive, and your top 26 continue to ride on through, now working lap number 50. Quietly through all of this, Dylan Duvall maybe as the things, I will say, slightly settle down, is almost taken over control of this race, Blake, leading 18 laps thus far. That's almost more than double the next closest driver.
Well, and he's done that through the commitment of 2 drivers directly behind him who really haven't left him and have continued to work with him and continue to push. And that's Casey Kerwin and Steven Wilson. And I think as they've kind of set the pace here, they've set the tone, and they've been committed to one another. You haven't really seen too many drivers willing to make moves. I say that right now. And Malik Ray, without any help, is trying to make a move up the middle. I think there's no shocker there. He's trying to make that middle line work. However, Matt Busa just up the road, coming off of pit road, Or actually, no, he's just about to go a lap down. He lost the draft a little bit earlier, but they'll have to navigate through some slower traffic as well here in Matt Busa.
Yeah, I mentioned he was that third car that was kind of out of the picture. At that time, he was a half a lap behind. Well, you could make it a whole lap behind now. However, Colin Bowden opts not to go to the middle to try to go around the 97, and it's a pretty smart move just to park the bus if you're Matt Busa on the bottom and basically get assimilated into this lead pack. They've kind of taken him up as one of their own, and now he's right there drafting alongside the race leader. This gives Busa a good track position opportunity to either A, actually be technically still on the lead lap if his nose could be in front of the 41, or at minimum, the first car one lap down in a lucky dog if an incident were to come out. So obvious strategy move here by Matt Busa to try to kind of lock in with this lead pack, hoping for a yellow, because again, you mentioned no issues for him, just lost the draft, that he's trickled all the way down. Last car on the lead lap right now, P36, but now in the draft, so he's not going to continue to lose more time.
Well, and you feel for Dylan Alt, who wants Matt Busa as much as possible to stay in front of the race leader so that he would be the recipient of the lucky dog should the caution come out. But the other thing we have to think about here is as we get closer to potentially seeing green flag pit stops, everybody that's on that top side, they're eventually going to have to find their way down to the bottom. So it'll be interesting to see how they try to do that, how early they do it, if they try to do it 1 or 2 laps before. And if you're on the bottom side, you're not just going to give it to them, you're going to make them kind of work their way down in the bottom. So we'll see how strong they can hold it. However, the top just has such a run right now. I don't think Busa is really working very well right here with Bowden is now up the middle. Here comes the 43. That's Femi Olot. He won a Daytona last year, so he knows a thing or two about winning in this package. But you can see right here that kind of just killed the bottom. Didn't do a whole lot, and the top lane really prevailed.
Top side wins out once more. As we continue to wait for majority of the field to pit, we have only seen Mullis and Justice on pit road. Mullis involved in that accident about 5 to 10 laps ago. He has come down to the pit lane. I referenced Justice's pit stop on his own a little bit ago. Nobody else has yet to come down, and it's always the green flag cycle of pit stops that breaks up the big pack, right? Happens at Daytona, happens at Talladega. Everybody can stay together, and then if you don't execute on the pit lane, that's when a 20-car group becomes a 10-car group. Will that happen tonight at Atlanta? We'll have to wait and see, and they are really making us wait, but I just find it super impressive, Blake. In the some 30 minutes since the green flag dropped, we have not seen this lead pack break up much at all. And even on the rare instances where a little bit of a scare shuffled things up, they got right back up and on the wheel quick. And really impressive driving, even with those close calls, for the very talented drivers in this field to be able to race this close for this many laps consecutively.
Again, this is why these guys are the best in the world, because they can make these moves that seemingly seem impossible, and yet they're so comfortable being able to run so close to one another, to side draft, to tandem, to do all the things necessary to try to make speed, and yet they make it look so easy. I can guarantee you, if you sign up for the Class A Oval Series after this, if you're running open or fixed, you're not going to see these types of moves succeeding as often as they are in this race. That's just the name of the game here with these drivers and how talented they are. As you can look on board here of Jordy Lopez, the Coca-Cola onboard camera, as he links up with somebody we saw him work with a lot in Michael Koji Jr.
Pretty calm, I would say, all things considered, as he rides almost at the very end of that inside line. Second to last car, hard to miss that Coca-Cola machine from way up top. You see the 3 car towards the rear of this group, but it also gave you a good perspective of just how much horizontal movement up or down is happening in front of him. And Now, if you're at the back, you kind of have to be watching for openings and or cars facing the wrong direction, because even at the back of the lead pack, again, any kind of incident's going to swallow up a lot of them, and I don't know how safe I'd feel there, but he is in touch with the lead pack. That is the objective. The lead pack stays 26 cars strong. A little bit of discombobulation in the back third here. Some 3 wide. The 18 to Bashida Bobby Zelensky in the middle. Good look at VRS colors this week on that Toyota Camry. Up front, a little bit more uniform, 2x2. Inside of 40 laps to go, and still no big rush to get down to the inside for pit service.
Although I would say up front, one of the best challenges we've seen up front for the race lead is coming in the form of Vicente Salas, who, by the way, shout out to Vicente, ran a late model at Hickory a couple weeks ago in their season opener. Didn't quite go as well as he wanted because of all the carnage that happened, but he's up there running, and even give a nod to Wyatt Tinsley, series rookie, that has pushed him on the bottom to try and make it happen.
Nick Ottinger watches on as Dylan Duval fights against Vicente Salas, trying to defend the race lead. Pit stop still standing between us and the checkered flag here at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
I need to try it first.
March is Women's History Month, and NASCAR is proud to recognize the accomplishments of past and present icons within the sport. From drivers like Sarah Christian, the first woman to compete in a NASCAR Cup Series race, to track presidents like Julie Giese, Lori Collier-Warren, Latasha Causey, and Jill Gregory, the women leading the venues in which we race across the country. All of these women have helped pave the way for future generations. We are proud to celebrate them and all women year-round.
Much has changed over our 75 years, but the thing that never does, the anticipation, the holding of breath until that first green flag drops and the crazy journey begins all over again. If you could travel 75 years from now, you might not recognize much at all. But one thing will never change. That feeling you get when the race begins again.
Green flag pit service underway here in Atlanta. Coverage of this race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by NASCAR. March is Women's History Month, and eNASCAR is proud to recognize the accomplishments of past and present women within the sport. The contributions made by these women to the sport should be celebrated as they help fuel NASCAR's past, present, and future. And the green flag pit stops, Blake, have fueled a shakeup in this race. You saw it on the side-by-side coverage. I don't think a single group made it into pit road without something. Cars slotted into each other, tires locked up, missing pit road, off and into the grass. And through all of that, Dylan Duval continues to lead this race.
Well, and through all of that, no caution flag being thrown, as all of it was beneath the apron, off the racing surface. And what that does is exactly what you see right here. It has allowed a group, it's usually about 15 or 20 cars or so that are able to kind of figure things out, has found their way up front. We saw this at Daytona, if you can remember, a couple weeks ago. You see the last group with Nick Ottinger, Michael Conti, and one more in Dylan Duval, or excuse me, that's Busa, making their way back onto the racetrack to try and catch up to this lead group. But it looks like it's going to be about 10 or 15 or so strong of cars that are on the lead lap that will make up this lead pack for now. Now, whether everybody else can run them down, we'll see, but that's the problem. There's only 31 laps to go with everybody pitting so late. You weren't going to make up as much time as, oh man, Colin Bowden was about dead to rights there on a push from Keegan Leahy.
We've seen that a couple times tonight. Bowden has been very nervous about some of the pushes he's received off the corner, at times by Malik Ray, that time by a 23 machine to Keegan Leahy behind him. All the drivers who had outstanding pit service to complete, including Nick Ottinger, have since done so. Ottinger led a couple of laps up front. He cycles back in an 18th position, and you are now looking at your lead pack. Despite all of that chaos, you'd think certainly it would fracture this lead pack. Still 17 cars in that one shot right there.
And it is tough if you are that Jim Beaver esports car that is all the way shoved out 3 wide. Garrett Lowe and Malik Ray. Again, we talked about how strong this team has run so far today. Lopez, a slide across the nose of Dylan Wilson. He ends up saving it. But up front, you have 3 drivers who have worked together across the service in a number of races. And Dylan Duvall, Malik Ray, and Casey Kerwin. Kerwin, it's amazing. We go to so many different types of racetracks, and yet Kerwin is finding his way up here as Bowden slides up the racetrack after a shove from Jordy Lopez, and Bowden has been loose this entire race, and he's been making it work, but I don't know how much longer he can do it.
There's a good onboard look with Stephen Wilson. You can see all those kind of sharp wheel inputs as he tries to get that race car around the racetrack as quick as possible, and also tries to find a gap. Does he dare go to the inside there? It's Bowden on the bottom. It's the 15 to Garrett Lowe up top. Wilson still piloting kind of that third lane, trying to make the middle work. Now he'll swing to the outside of number 3 of Jordy Lopez, and man, is it getting aggressive, and all of a sudden now Bowden forced to the middle, and the 3 car going to cut him off on the inside.
Again, Bowden made a move right there. Lopez nearly shoved up in front of him. And it is, these drivers are continuing to get more aggressive on when they throw those blocks, when they decide to jump into another lane, all that temperature getting turned up here. And if you're one of those drivers who through the cycle didn't necessarily have a good pit cycle, you are praying that somehow they are going to wreck up here. And again, with how aggressive these moves are getting, it wouldn't shock me if that were to happen.
Feels like a matter of time, but admittedly it's felt that way for 45 minutes since we started this race. Yet they race on. Corey Vincent on the inside of the racetrack. The number 2 Toyota scored at a 15th right now. He's in a pack of 5 Toyotas all around him, but it's difficult to make some moves. Femi Olat, also one of the drivers in the
running there hard to the outside wall in turn number 1 as he threw one last block that he couldn't quite hold as Wilson shoved him into the fence, and somehow out of all that, it's really him. And then look at Caden Honeycutt, barely gets clipped at the tail end of it.
Eventually, the balloon's only going to grow and grow and grow until it pops, and it finally did, as Colin Bowden was sent into the outside wall. Miraculously, a relatively small accident, all things considered, because that number 69 Chevrolet stayed on the outside of the wall for a long, long time until late in the accident. It looked like it collected Caden Honeycutt. We'll wait for the second look to get all the details, but you're right. I mean, we talked about dancing between the middle lane, going down to the inside, and certainly looked like it was one of those shots on corner entry that finally just went too far.
Yeah, and again, I don't think Wilson there is trying to push. I don't think Bowden throws a bad block. It's just one of those cases that everything funnels up, and eventually when it happens enough times where there's a huge difference in speed and everybody's trying to shove each other, there's at least one shove out of the hundreds that have been going on tonight that is just going to get that driver a little bit too much out of shape. As we're going to take another look at this caution flag that comes out for the first time on lap 76, and you can see, watch the purple car in the center of your screen gets a little out of shape, and he can barely do anything, if anything, to try and save it. He's stuck here on the wall and unfortunately pulls it right back down. Caden Honeycutt, who thought he was clear of the wreck, has nowhere to go. And that is tough for Caden Honeycutt, who just cannot seem to find a break, not only last year, but this year in this series, as I'm sure he thought Bowden was going to keep it up there by the wall.
Yeah, he had done such a good job of holding it up against the outside wall for so long. It allowed everybody to get on by, and then eventually that car came off the outside wall, and Colin Bowden unfortunately involved in that incident. It hasn't been a great start to the year for him either. 36th in the points coming into this race. Had a good night to that point, having led 2 laps. It had been up front for most of them, but that accident will force him down pit road. Luza, Guest, Justice, Honeycutt, all also going to come down pit road to get some damage fixed on those race cars. Race leaders were just down pit road no more than a dozen laps ago, Blake, so they all stay out to maintain track position inside of 25 to go. And let's see if you can dial up the driver of that 69 Chevrolet.
We do have Colin Bowden. I know you're kind of down. You're assessing the damage right now. What happened there getting into turn 1?
I think Steven was getting pushed and just got pushed into me, and we were just so tight there. We're all trying to get hold on, I can't even drive this damn thing right now. We're just trying to get everything back together to like get up to the front, because clean air was pretty important. You could control the lines there, and I think I just got hit and it just turned me left and right, and then we were up in the air, and I think we're in the catch fence a little bit. Just not good.
Does it have, I know you're kind of trying to drive this thing. I mean, do you think it still has speed that you can keep up with? You didn't go a lap down.
Yeah, man, we're doing 150 right now. I don't know. Wheels at 9 o'clock. I think we're in a little bit of trouble here. We're going to need a caution or 2. I mean, I got 9 minutes or optional repair left, so it's less than ideal. I mean, I got a tire, I think, still falling off this thing right now. Oh, the field's stopping right here. Look out. We got it. Everybody stay calm. Dang.
Good. I was a little worried. I saw you approaching the field with some speed, but you know, I want to ask you one more. We appreciate you talking to us, Colin.
Well, tough break for him. He'll try to bounce back into this race. And again, his, I think, hope at this point is that if there's more cartage, maybe an opportunity to pick up some pieces to Blake. Admittedly, I have a hard time believing, as we come to 22 laps to go, that we are going to go all 22 laps to the end. Let's see. Has the cork been popped on the bottle in this race, and how will this one finish? Malik Ray, Garrett Lowe on the front row. Green flag back in the air. Up front to the outside, Ray gets in front of the 15 machine, so they're going to lead the top. Look at the move by the 55 as Salas goes to the third lane. He'll get undercut. The 43 car of Femi Olat making money moves to the inside.
And he's doing it with the Charlotte Phoenix teammate in Graham Boland, as they were 4 wide on the front straightaway. And as much as we say it, well, I don't think that is the last time we may say 4 wide in the closing 20 laps of this race. Malik Ray able to hold steady out front, but Wilson getting one heck of a shove from Jordy Lopez up front, as they're still 3 wide behind him. They're nearly wrecking down to the apron on the front straightaway. 4 wide yet again.
And the issue with the 4 lanes is that they're not really designated lanes. It changes every time they come in or come out of a corner. Caution behind your race leaders, the lead pack, and there it is. Not a good 10 laps for eRacer. This time it's Keister.
And this was further back in the pack, around the 25th position or so. And I know we kind of saw that stack up into turn 1, and Bowden gets a bad shove, and kind of same song, different dance here for Bowden, with just a vicious checkup in the middle. Again, they were 4 wide in front of them. Keister checks up for it, and I believe it was McKissick who didn't really have anywhere to go with that.
Let's take a look. The 42 car is in the middle of the racetrack. Up the road, the 77 of Doucette, but you're looking for that 36 of McKissick on the bottom. And There's the checkup, and yeah, just kind of knocked the 42 down. He may have tried to make a little bit of a move to the inside to avoid the contact. And at that point, McKissick had such a run that contact was really unavoidable there. And you saw Keister sideways in front of the pack. A couple of other cars get a little bit of damage. I think he took a chunk off of the 27 at Cody Bias. Again, only a couple of cars involved in that one, but it does put us very quickly now under our second yellow of the night.
Nearly got tagged again by Caden Honeycutt, but I think this wreck for Keister is not near as much of a detriment as it was for Colin Bowden, who at least has an opportunity to get some more damage fixed. But I think Keister didn't hit the wall too hard at all. I think he should be all right with this one.
Still no decisions for the drivers up front. They all want to stay out and protect their track position. Let's see what Ryan Luza saw in all of this. He was riding behind the contact off into turn 1. Pretty good heads-up driving there. Second, he saw the smoke, lifted out of the throttle, didn't make any over-aggressive dive, high or low, held the wheel and is able to sneak on through. But I think it is a worthwhile point to talk about. Ryan Luza once upon a time led 11 laps in this race, Blake, and even after avoiding the accident, he does decide to come down pit road this time through to get 4 fresh tires. And Ryan Luza will restart this race in 32nd position.
Well, I don't think those tires would hurt him. He's already back here in 32nd, so it's not really gonna be to his detriment to lose any track position to come down and get 4 fresh tires. You can see the attitude and the mentality of the rest of the field is that, well, you got to stay out front. You got to keep this track position.
Of course, as we continue to race into 2023 and beyond, if you want the latest news and updates from the world of eNASCAR, then sign up today. You can scan the QR code on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and stay up to date with iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR. And of course, the best way to follow us is to go to iRacing.com/eNASCAR. You'll be able to find the 2023 schedule, the standings, and even the rules on how you could one day qualify into this series through the eNASCAR Contender, the iRacing Qualifying Series, and many other. But Blake, iRacing is far more than just competitive esports sim racing. If you just want to get your iRacing career started today, there's no better time to do so than at iRacing.com.
And no, it's not. And no better time than right now. It's the start of a brand new season on the iRacing service. We have the brand new late model stock car that came out last week. We had the creation of a Gen 4 Cup car that is out on the iRacing service right now. I was driving that a lot today, and it was a blast to drive that thing around Homestead, Miami.
So many different options here on the service. Again, iRacing.com for more information. And again, who knows, class of 2025, 6, 7, 8, maybe one day you'll be racing here on the road to $300,000. Up for grabs though here tonight, a checkered flag. The pace cars back off and in. 15 laps left to go in Atlanta. Malik Ray says you got to take that when it's open, as he's aggressively third in line up on the outside of the racetrack. First lap led, though, for the number 11 Toyota of Parker White. The micro center entry for Tony Kanani Sports leads on the inside.
Oh, it isn't going to work, no, but he makes it happen as no, Parker's going to get turned, and he brings Casey Kerwin along with him as White made the shove, and there was nowhere to go for Kerwin. Your defending champion is involved. Malik Ray has some damage as well, and Parker White tried to make the move. He did. And then 4 wide heading into turn 3. I don't think that was a formula that was going to work out. Heck yeah, they weren't 4 wide. They were 5. You could maybe even say a scattered 6 if you really wanted to heading into turn 3. That was never going to work.
Yeah, Parker lost the lead just as quick as he got it, as he got loosened up off of the nose of the number 15 to Bashid behind him of Garrett Lowe, and then it all unraveled so quickly as they went down the back straightaway and off it into turn number 3. Again, all it takes is one driver to get a little bit out of line and the floodgates open. And I think, again, a second look at this will show that probably an avoidable accident, but no one's lifting at this point in the race, right? This, maybe we get away with it 12 laps in, not with 12 laps to go. And first, Blake, we'll look at it from high above, right? You'll see the 11. When they come off of 2, he's going to get loosened up by the 15. That's fine. They catch it, and then watch the 95 occur when he's going to get pushed by the 43 machine behind all the way through that 11 car, and I think that's really what finished them off.
Yeah, it's hard to really point to one driver and say, well, if you could have done this differently, we would all be okay. It was... I mean, Kerwin was kind of at the mercy of whoever's behind him, and which was Femi Olot, and Olot's being shoved. It's just a case where everybody's going for the same piece of real estate all at the same time. This is Michael Conti, who was a little bit further back. You see a lot of drivers, as soon as they see smoke, Michael Cozy Jr. down there, they go right down to the bottom. So does Conti. Cozy got tagged down there, but it looks like he saved it. But that's kind of a smart decision with this banking and how it funnels. You see smoke, immediately go down to the bottom as we watch Zach Novak too. And this Kevin Harvick throwback, he's in the middle of it all and just nowhere to go.
Thought he might have had a fighting chance, and all the way to a stop as the track was blocked in front of him. A tough break for him there, and after getting relatively lucky with a small car count of those first 2 yellows, Blake, that's not the case in this third one. It was a big accident, and it all started when that 11 of Parker White, who was leading this race, got pushed to the middle and then hit from behind. You've got him dialed up.
Well, Parker, we saw you make that move off at turn 2. You're leading that third lane. Is there any way to kind of describe what happened to you entering turn 3?
Yeah, coming out of turn 2, I was clear to the top, so I tried to slap in front of Steven, and I didn't quite get there, so I knew I just had to hold it in the middle, and like I just, my best option was just to hold it there, and Casey just kind of went for a hold that wasn't there, but we got some damage fixed, so we'll just keep going forward.
All right, Parker, well, thanks for talking to us. We'll let you get back after it.
Yep, thank you.
And find himself in 30th position after that incident as he tries his best to catch up to the field, who is already coming off of turn number 2 with the lights out on top of the pace car. Can't say, Blake, I'm shocked that once we got that first yellow inside of the final 30 that it's been a lot of stop and start since then. Third yellow going to go behind us. It'll leave us with 10 laps to go on the board.
Well, this is more of what we saw last night. Again, these drivers kind of have the Class A Oval Series that's available to them on Monday nights to practice, and this is kind of more what we saw throughout the entire race. These big runs, everybody was testing, trying to make some moves, and now with 11 laps to go, again, this is a race and a track where anybody can win at, and everybody knows how valuable that is to trying to make the playoffs and win this championship.
Pace car off it in. How many more laps inside of the final 10 will be under green as the chaos ramps up late? Green flag back in the air, and it is a really good jump for the inside. Wilson pulls clear, and so does the 15 at Garrett Lowe. He'll jump from 3rd to 2nd. They've got the advantage on the inside.
And by contrast, it was kind of an awful restart there on the high side, but because of that, they are going to have a huge run here down the back straightaway as a big shove to the back of Garrett Lowe from Jordy Lopez Jr. 4 cars make it away as you see some smoke further back in the pack. No caution yet.
1 car's out of control and now wrecking off of turn 4 on their own. No caution, though. It's Derek Justice. This race stays green, though. Up top, 6 cars with the advantage as they ring off of turn number 2. It's the 10 car leading the way, followed by Lopez Jr. in 3rd, Vicente Salas, Bolin, Duval, and so many more in the mix. But they're all chasing Wilson. He leads the top side. Bolin leads the inside.
And we are seeing some very aggressive moves down here on the bottom. Earlier in this race, beneath that red line, everybody was kind of running together, not making aggressive moves. Now, everybody views that as a passing opportunity to make it 4 wide, to make it 5 wide in the dogleg. I think if you're looking for somewhere where perhaps our next wreck would happen, I think it would be in that dogleg, James Pike.
Yeah, quick note from Jordy Lopez. He's been asking whether or not it's worth it to try and go to the bottom, and his team, Seth the Merchant, Christian Peterson on the box front, they have been repeating constantly, do not leave that outside line. That's where the momentum is going to be on corner exit. It's the outside that they think they're going to win this race, so he's going to stay up there. The question will be whether or not he can get around Garrett Lowe and Steven Wilson to try and take the checkered flag home.
He's got a good looking spot, but again, can he get around the 10 and the 15, or are Wilson and Lowe also married to the same concept of just staying up top? 6 laps to go. Look at the swing to the inside by Femi Olat's 43. He wants to get hooked up with his Charlotte Phoenix teammate on the inside. Not going to happen. A little bit of contact there in the middle as the 33 car, Tucker Minter's getting squished.
And they're exactly right. I totally agree with what Jordy Lopez Jr. and his team was saying. They are formed up top. They're 2, they're 3 wide behind them. This is exactly what they need. But if you're Steven Wilson, you have to start to play through the end of this race in the back of your mind. Where is the move going to come from? Where are you going to block? And at the end of the day, when that second place driver has a run at you, are you going to stay committed to your lane, or are you going to try to block him? What are you going to do? I'm sure those are the things that Steven Wilson has to be thinking about right now.
Solid 3 lanes of traffic from about P5 on back. Until you get there, though, it's the outside, the place to be. A little bit of a puff of smoke. There goes the 2 car. Vincent's into the outside wall. Femi Olat goes with him. It is another big mess on the front straightaway, and this race is headed to overtime.
It all started, I think, around where Keegan Leahy and Femi Olat were running. As we saw that orange 43 Toyota was darting low, going high. He was doing anything he could to try to make a move, and he made one on Keegan Leahy to get to the middle. They make a little bit of contact at the worst part, or the worst area you can really do it, off of turn number 4. Unfortunately, also clips the number 2 in Corey Vincent, and at that funneling position on the exit of the corner, Evan, there's just nowhere to go, and the rest of the field just comes piling in at that point.
It just, nothing else you can do once that happens in front of you. And again, late in this race, there's not going to be any give. It's all take, and let's watch it unfold from high above. Again, the 23 on the bottom, the 43 looks to the middle, and I don't know if the 23 didn't think he was clear yet or was just pushing up from off the corner, but once they got squeezed, look at those other cars that got sent around, and a couple of hard hits for some drivers. Let's see what Mike Conti saw.
You can imagine this is going to be a really bad position. He's, what, the 10th, 12th car here on the outside. It starts right here. And there's Strauss. He misses him. There's a couple more. He misses them. And even another car that scurries in front of him. My goodness, that is some heads-up driving right there from Michael Conti to scoot through that one. When it's your year, it's your year.
Exactly that, man. No reason he should have been able to get through that. Here's Barney's perspective. You can see Conti sneak by some of the cars that ended up in the outside wall, and Michael Conti's farewell campaign, a little bit more magic here. Of course, he was your winner 2 weeks ago at the Milwaukee Mile, and now getting through the wreck finds himself in 7th in contention to maybe try to win this race, but it's going to be challenging with the amount of laps left on the board. Once this one gets back underway, we will officially go past our scheduled distance of 100 laps in this Atlanta 150, which means another edition of eNASCAR Overtime. We will have 3 attempts to finish this race in a green-white checker procedure. When we take the green, there will be 2 laps to go. If we get around an entire lap to the white flag, this race is official, and the race will finish under green. If we get a caution before the white flag, we'll re-rack them and try it again, Blake, for a maximum of 3 tries.
And again, the biggest difference here between iRacing and real world is that once we get to that white flag, there's no looking back there. We could have 20 wrecks on the last lap. We are still going to see it all the way through to the checkered flag. And I know many fans, Evan, they have to be pretty familiar with that. Not only have we had a couple of overtime finishes this year, we ended last year with a long string of overtime finishes. So I think it's something that if you're a driver in this series, you can do all you want, but you have to be able to execute in these high pressure, high stakes, late race restart situations.
And the question was always at the super speedways, do you want to be the first car or the second car? Blake, I don't even think it's that specific here tonight. I think it's anyone in the top 15.
Well, think of what happened at Daytona. Casey Kerwin, he was the lead car off of turn number 4. Tucker Minter scoots by for the win. I kind of have the same train of thought for this race. You do not want to be the leader, I think, off of turn 4.
We'll see how this one shakes out. It's attempt number 1 at eNASCAR overtime with Steven Wilson in control for the inside of the front row. Green flag in the air. 2 laps to go in Atlanta.
And a great start there for the inside line, but Garrett Lowe is able to pull back Steven Wilson with a little bit of side draft, so he's going to pin that line down to the bottom. He just has to look behind him. Does Salas go high, or does he stay tucked in line? He's going to stay with him to the backstretch.
Neck and neck for the outside. Pulls the advantage. Low the opportunity. He goes down and blocks, though. It was Wilson to the inside. He makes it through as the caution comes out.
And just a slight split second too late right there from Garrett Lowe, who saw that move from Vicente as he made it up the middle. And unfortunately there for Garrett Lowe, Vicente had just a little bit of a run and was just there as Lowe cut down. It's just a smidge too late. But again, that's the move that these drivers are willing to make. They have their chance to try and win one of these races. And I feel bad for Garrett Lowe trying to go to victory lane there.
Nothing else he can do besides try to make the block, but that 55 made the movement first. And I think a key to look for is that guy right there, the 10 of Steven Wilson, was still on the inside of the 55 of Salas. So as Salas makes this move, Salas cannot go all the way to the red line because the 55 is still underneath him. Watch the 10, watch the 55, right? It's nobody in the middle, but still on the bottom, still on the bottom. So when he goes low, he can't keep chasing it even lower when the 15 makes the block. Eventually, he has to hold his ground, and the 15 keeps coming.
That's exactly right. And again, that's just one of those moves that if, you're Garrett Lowe, you kind of almost maybe think about giving up that spot. You could be the leader of the outside line on the white flag lap. That's not a bad position to be in. This is Alan Bowes, a couple of bumper cars here, and well, he keeps rolling, all things considered. I think you can be pretty happy there if you're Alan Bowes. And by the way, Colin Keister, didn't he spin a couple laps ago? He's in 5th right now. I mean, where in the world did he come from?
Goes to show you that it is never over until the very end. Keister pitted only 18 laps ago. Most of the cars up here pitted 36, 37 ago. Of course, not what Garrett Lowe wanted there.
Not at all. And Garrett, kind of walk us through what happened there into turn 3.
Honestly, have no clue. Spotter said run come in middle a little bit, but stay top, and I stayed top. I don't know if it's the right call or the wrong call, but just got turned. So not sure. Just disappointing. Had a really bad fast Big Green Egg Mustang, so try to pick up the pieces here with 1 to go.
All right, Jim. Well, or Garrett, thank you for talking with us. A driver out of Jim Beaver Esports who came up so close right there, Evan, to pulling off a winning move.
It was not that far away from looking for career race win number 3. It will not happen here tonight at Atlanta. So we roll on to our second of 3 attempts. And I think in this race, especially, Blake, was very clear to make it well known that we had maximum of 3 attempts because you're pushing it now. We'll try it again. Same rules. Of course, if we get to the white, this race is official. Of course, in sim racing, there are no concerns with getting safety vehicles onto the racetrack. If you get to the white, that's it. Doesn't matter how long or how many cars make it through that final lap. We're doing it, going to the checkers, but they got to get there, and we'll try it again.
And we'll see if we can do it. Steven Wilson is back up front. Jordi Lopez Jr. has an opportunity to go to victory lane for the first time in his career. How about Michael Guest, who finds his way up here, who has been in this series for a very long time, and yet he is another one of those drivers who has yet to go to victory lane over the course of his career. It could be a first time coming here tonight for Michael Guest. I don't think you can write out a couple of drivers behind him. Colin Keister looking for his second win. Michael Cozy Jr. in there in 7th. And even Parker White, who found himself turned in front of the field. I mean, he's in 10th right now. He's not out of it.
A lot of drivers fighting through adversity to stay in contention for the race win. It's Wilson to the inside and Lopez to the outside. 2 laps to go at Atlanta. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for the bottom. Wilson's got the upper hand. Deadlocked for second to turn 1.
And Wilson, this is not good for him. He has a little bit too much of a lead. Lopez and Leahy are hooked up pretty well, so Wilson going to have to make a move here. Where's he going to block? He's going to stay blocking low. Leahy not going to make the move yet. Keister, Cozy, they're all in line on the bottom. That top side did not get rolling very well.
And a couple of cars trying to look to the middle to make it 3 wide. Zelensky, the instigator. Now the 3-car. Lopez loses all of his help. He'll drop back. White flag in the air. This race is official.
And Wilson going to block down to the bottom. Who steps out of line first? Is it Leahy? Is it Keister? Is it Michael Cozy Jr. off at 2? Leahy's out a shove. Here comes Cozy with a run. Keister shoves Wilson into turn number 3.
Side by side for second. Wilson still the advantage. Pushed by Colin Keister. 3 wide behind. Off at turn 4. Keister looks. He can't do it. Steven Wilson returns to eNASCAR victory lane at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
We talked about how much you may not want to be a leader on the last lap, and Wilson is able to get it done, restarting from the top spot. And not a great start to the year for Steven Wilson, who's beneath 30th in points, but that win, if he can catch up in the standings, will lock his way into the playoffs later this season.
And he will celebrate on the front straightaway. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And when you talk about his 4 race wins last season, Blake, now a race win here this year in round 3, Steven Wilson is one of the winningest drivers at this level of the last 2 years.
And it's so impressive what he's been able to do. And we talked about his rookie year, how much he showed a lot of potential and that this could be a sign of things to come. And yet, like you mentioned, he has been to victory lane at all different types of racetracks, road courses, super speedways. Steven Wilson is somebody that can get it done anywhere.
We take a look at our Coca-Cola full race results tonight. The final margin of victory, less than a 1/10 to Colin Keister. Great bounce back for that eRacer Chevrolet. Guest Cozy Bolin in the top 5. Tyler Gary, P6. Wyatt Tinsley, P7. We didn't talk about those drivers much at all tonight. They walk away with a lot of points.
They do. Dylan Duvall, who led more laps than anybody tonight, still able to bring in home 8th. How about Parker White for Tony Kanaan Esports? 2 top 10 finishes for both of those drivers.
And back in the midfield, of course, story is a lot of drivers who wish they had gotten more out of this one, right? I mean, Bobby Zelensky had an opportunity to lead a lap. He gets an okay finish in 17th. You go even further back, a lot of drivers who started in the top 10, right? Finish in the 20s, including your pole sitter, Ryan Luza, led 11 laps. Vicente Salas, Garrett Lowe, they all led laps, but don't walk away with a ton to show for it.
No, they don't. And even further down the running order, Malik Ray, Casey Kerwin, some drivers that had such a great chance to win this race.
Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race. And of course, it all came down to the final restart. Again, we kept saying maybe you don't want to be the leader. It was a good jump. That was key. And then as he had the advantage off into 1 and 2, you knew they were going to close in on him, and it was a whole lot of defense.
It certainly was. Again, at this point, I'm worried that top lane is going to get a huge run, but they never really had anything. Once Wilson got hooked up here on the bottom, you could see Leahy, everybody up there shoving Jordy Lopez Jr. behind. But once they step out of line a couple rows, somebody gets into the fence, that top lane never really formed up. And from there, it was just stellar defense. And, oh, man, I mean, that move about lost him the race right there.
Couple of those moments late in this one. Of course, the big run from Keegan Leahy. He decided to go to the outside off of 2, and they splintered off as the 42 car went down to the inside, and evidently it ended up being a pretty good push through turns 3 and 4 by Keister. Keister needed that push to clear those cars up top to try to make a move, but by the time he had done so, he had given so much momentum to the 10 of Steven Wilson, who at the very end of the race hangs on for career race win number 5. Steven Wilson is once again an eNASCAR iRacing Series winner. Blake, you're talking now with the winner.
Let's bring in Steven Wilson, your winner tonight at the new configuration of the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And Steven, we've been able to talk to you a number of times, but is there a win that has felt as sweet as this one after how you were able to pull it off?
No, sir. This is definitely number 1 on my list. It's been a bit mental boom the last few races. This is the first one I finished all year, so that's a positive. Came into this race with 10 points, and I think we're going to leave a bit better than that. Got 4 times that, at least in this race, so definitely good to be back. New Atlanta, old Atlanta, apparently we're good no matter what it is.
Back-to-back Atlanta wins for Steven Wilson, the driver out of Iowa City, Iowa, but you know, you talked about your slow start to this year. Obviously, you have this win in your back pocket now. How does this kind of change the outlook of your season going forward?
Yeah, obviously, it's just from now you have that win. I just got to get in a good enough points position from where I'm at. I assume today will help to get into that playoffs. That's what matters. Obviously, want to defend what I didn't get last year. Want to try to be a little bit better. So that's what the goal is, and this win is definitely the beginning of that journey getting started.
All right, Steven. Well, congratulations on your 4th career win, getting it done once again at Atlanta. Steven Wilson, your winner tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, as we are going to catch up directly with the man who pushed him to that win, and I'm sure was hoping for one himself, in Colin Keister, who nearly went to victory lane for the 2nd time in his career, kind of playing through that last lap. Do you think there's anything you maybe could have done different to try to make a better move at Steven Wilson there?
No, I just got a good restart and got right on Keegan's bumper and was just pushing those 2 around the track, and Keegan got a little loose into one, and I was able to get under him and onto Steven, and I just shoved him through the corner. And I was hoping to get a little push from Cozy from behind, but it looked like he got side drafted, and I couldn't get a run on Steven. But I'm happy to come home with a 2nd place finish, that's for sure.
I was about to say, you late in that race, you're spun, you're sitting back in about 30th. How was the drive? How were you able to get back to even be in position to have a shot at winning that race?
After I got wrecked, I just tried to pick the right line and take the runs, and I was able to get up to like 25th and then went to the bottom and gained another 10 spots, and we had that big wreck, and I was able to miss it, and things went my way, that's for sure.
That they did, Colin. Well, congratulations on your 2nd place run tonight, and we'll see you next time out.
Thank you.
Colin Keister in the E-Racer Chevrolet brings it home in 2nd, and Michael Guest, he had a shot at that win as well. Started back in the 31st position, drove his way through the field, but very solid night tonight for that 23-11 driver. And Michael, just kind of talk us through your night. I know there was a lot of chaos out there.
Yeah, that was a crazy race. Starting in the back, I really didn't know what to do. I figured there'd be a big wreck that would take everybody out pretty early, but there wasn't. So made my way to the front, and I pit with Colin, and I overshot it a little bit and straight dumped him on coming onto pit road. So I'm really happy we got the caution and got us caught back up, and from there me and him both dug to the front. I don't know how it happened, but we missed all the wrecks, and we went from 35th to 2nd and 3rd. So I'm really happy about that. I do wish I would have been able to push my 23-11 teammate Keegan to the win. I got a little bit tight in the last corner, and I mean, if you lift, you're going to lose a lot of time. So I just had to keep it full, and it just drifted towards the wall, and I ended up having to leave him out. So that sucked, but very happy for our 2311 Camry. Couldn't be happier with third, honestly, from this race.
All right, Michael. Well, congratulations again on finishing third tonight. A good points night for you. Hopefully we'll be talking to you a little more throughout this year.
Appreciate it.
Well, big thanks to our top 3 drivers for giving us a little bit of time, and we completely shake things up for another first of the year, because in 2 weeks' time, Blake, we are going short track racing at Richmond.
And this is personally probably my favorite track on the service, just a track that I've loved. It's an amazing track where you have multiple grooves, you have all sorts of options. It's really a driver's racetrack, and I think even here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, we've seen a handful of great finishes at this racetrack over the previous couple of years, and I don't think 2 weeks' time it should be any different.
And we're looking forward to everybody joining us for that one. But until then, that is it for us here tonight for iRacing's virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. I want to say a big thanks on behalf of everybody behind the scenes that makes this broadcast possible, as well for the teams over at iRacing and NASCAR. But for your broadcast team tonight, for James Pike on pit road, for Blake McCandless, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in and congratulate Steven Wilson, the third-year driver with this race win, is now tied for 9th on the all-time wins list. We're 3 races in. We've had 3 different race winners. Will the trend continue? We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, March 28th for the virtual Richmond Raceway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until then, good night from Atlanta.